The cleaner sat, by pure accident, at the billionaire's reserved table. And he turned her entire life upside down. Before we dive in, drop a comment and tell me which city or town or village you're watching from tonight. And when we reach the end, give this story a score out of 10. Enjoy. It was the wrong chair. Not just any wrong chair, but the single most forbidden chair in the entire Langham Grand in Mayfair, London. The seat kept 4 tycoons, minor royals, and people who think nothing of dropping 30 grand on dinner. And Eleanor Ellie Walsh hadn't a clue. She perched there in a simple midnight blue frock she'd denabbed in the January sales at House of Fraser on Oxford Street, nervously smoothing the crisp white napkin across her lap. Ellie Walsh, she muttered under her breath. Tonight you will not spill, trip, or put your foot in it. Deep breath, love. She glanced around the glittering ballroom, crystal chandeliers dripping light like diamonds, and gave herself a tiny nod. You've hoovered this room 1,000 times on your knees. Tonight, you're on the posh side of the rope. You've got this. Truth was, Ellie looked far too glamorous for a woman who'd just been named Employee of the Year by the cleaning contractor. Because the elegant place card in front of her, cream card with real gold lettering, read Eleanor Walsh. And Ellie, ever the optimist, assumed it was part of the prize. Of course, Teddy put me at the top table, she thought. Employee of the Year gets the royal treatment. Lovely. She patted the rock-solid updo her neighbor Doreen had sculpted with half a can of Illnet and a packet of Kirby grips. Doreen, you're a miracle worker. This hair could survive Storm Babette. Dancer. Ellie Walsh from Croydon. She nearly giggled out loud. Steady young girl. Over by the service doors, 2 harassed event coordinators clutched clipboards and whispered furiously. You're sure it's Walsh? Asked Liv, the younger one, headset dangling round her neck. Senior Supervisor Margaret ran a manicured finger down the list. Walsh. Walsh, yes. Eleanor Walsh, Employee of the Year. Should be table 14 by the kitchen, but a card's at table 1. Liv's pen jabbed. Toward the head table. The owner's table. Margaret went to color of skimmed milk. Yesterday the cards were already printed. Someone cocked it up. Liv flicked to the VIP page. Mr. Harrington's personal guest tonight was meant to be Eleanor Harper, influencer, 3 million followers. She cancelled yesterday morning. Margaret closed her eyes. We've sat the cleaner in the seat of a bloody influencer. At Alexander Harrington's table, Liv dropped her clipboard with a clatter. Meanwhile, Ellie was having the night of her life. She stared at the empty plate so fine she could see her fingerprints through it and whispered, Yesterday I was scrubbing this room till my knees bled. Tonight I'm somebody. She lifted the heavy crystal tumbler, watching the chandelier light fracture through the water. Careful, Ellie. Grip it like your life depends on it. That's when someone slid into the chair beside her. Tall, immaculate charcoal suit, slate gray. Tie knotted to perfection. Dark hair swept back with effortless class. The air itself seemed to shift. Ellie turned, nearly choked on air, and squeaked, bloody hell sorry. Evening, he smiled, just a flicker at the corner of his mouth. Good evening. Good evening, she echoed, rearranging her napkin for the 5th time. Didn't see you arrive. You a stealth bomber or something? He gave a low, warm laugh. Harley Ellie thrust out her hand. Ellie Walsh. Pleased to meet you? He shook it firmly. Alexander. Lovely name. She tucked her hands back in her lap before they did something daft. So, do you work here too? He tilted his head, amused. In a manner of speaking. Brilliant. I'm housekeeping. 1 Employee of the Year. Would you believe? That's why I'm here instead of in Meepenny. These chairs are like sitting on a cloud, aren't they? Alexander studied her with quiet fascination. Employee of the Year. Congratulations. Thank you. She pressed a hand to her chest, genuinely touched. Nearly bawled my eyes out when they told me. 3 years I've been here. Up at 4:30, 2 night buses from Croydon, 17 floors a day. Mad, in it. But I love it. Why? He asked. Actually interested. because I make things nice. Someone walks into a spotless room that smells of lemon and fresh linen, and their whole day feels better. Little things matter. Alexander went quiet, just looking at her. Ellie flushed crimson. Sorry, I waffle when I'm nervous. Doreen says Evie got a mouth with no off. I even talk to myself. At work. Ellie, mind the vase. Ellie, behind the door. Love. He smiled properly this time. I think you're wonderfully real. Ellie blinked. Really? Really. Across the room, Margaret was having kittens. He's sat right next to her. I can see that, Liv hissed. I'm going over. Live, no heel, sack us both. We have to tell him it's a mistake. Live marched toward table 1. Pulse hammering. Back at the table, Ellie was still chatting. Travel far tonight? A bit, Alexander said vaguely. Must be lovely. Never left Britain myself. Went to Brighton once for a day trip, does that count? She laughed at herself. One day I want to see proper turquoise sea. White sand. The lot. You've never seen the sea. He sounded genuinely surprised. Only on the telly. It's number 1 on my bucket list. Liv reached the table, plastered on a smile, and leant in. Good evening, Mr. Harrington. So sorry to interrupt. Alexander turned. Yes, Olivia. Ellie frowned. Harrington. Same name as the hotel. Liv lowered her voice. Sir, there's been a terrible mix-up with the place cards. Miss Walsh is our Employee of the Year. She should be at table 14. The names were Simmer Harper. Walsh on somehow. Alexander raised a calm hand. Olivia, sir? He glanced at Ellie, who looked like a rabbit in headlights, then back to Liv. Miss Walsh is precisely where she ought to be. Liv faltered. But sir, there's no issue. The original guest, cancelled. Leave everything as it is. Liv swallowed. Understood, sir. She retreated, nearly tripping over a chair leg. Ellie stared at Alexander. You're her boss. Something like that. Oh gosh, sorry. I didn't realize you were important. He gave a small smile. I'd like you to stay, Ellie. Her heart did an odd flip. You sure? Positive. The waiter arrived with exquisite canapes balanced like tiny works of art. Ellie gazed in awe. That's food. It's too pretty to eat. Alexander's eyes crinkled. It's definitely for eating. She picked one up, as though it might detonate. If I get crumbs on this tablecloth, I'll be mortified. I'll whip out meat duster and sort it myself. He chuckled. Later, when the molten chocolate pudding arrived with vanilla ice cream already racing across the plate, Ellie confidently attacked it with the fish fork. Across the table, a woman in scarlet silk and pearls nearly inhaled her wine. Alexander simply laughed, a deep, unguarded sound no one in that room had heard from him in years. Picked up his own fish fork and joined her. A fork. Right. Ellie grinned. Exactly, he said. Whoever decided we need 17 different ones had far too much time. Ellie let out a delighted, slightly too loud laugh that made half the table flinch. Alexander, you're hilarious. The woman in red leant to her husband. Who on earth is she? No idea. But I've never seen Alexander Harrington look. Happy? Ellie, oblivious, dabbed ice cream from her chin. This melts faster than a cornetto. In July, Alexander rested his chin on his hand, utterly captivated. Do you always say exactly what you're thinking? According to Doreen, I was born without a filter. Is that a problem? Not even slightly. It's rare. By the time the evening wound down, Ellie clutched her 5-year-old full-leather handbag and stood. Well, this has been magical. Thank you for not turfing me out. Alexander rose, too, impossibly elegant. Ellie, may I ask you something? Course, long as it's not bungee jumping. He smiled. Your phone number. The room seemed to hush. Ellie's mouth opened, closed. My number. Yes. Like, so you can ring me? Exactly. She pressed a hand to her racing heart. "Alexander, are you feeling all right? Did you bang your head?" He laughed softly. "I'm perfectly fine. Why on earth would you want my number?" Because I'd very much like to see you again. If you'd like that too, of course." Ellie stared at the man who owned half the luxury hotels in Europe. Well, everywhere. And felt the strangest flutter of possibility. Ellie's mouth opened, shut, opened again, and finally squeaked out, I'd like that, very much." Her fingers shook so badly she nearly launched her ancient Nokia into orbit. "Just warning you, my phone's older than some of the guests' children. Screen freezes, ringtones. That awful default beeping one, and I still don't know how to change it." Alexander pulled out a sleek new iPhone and held it out to her. "Put your number in." She typed with 2 careful fingers, checked it 3 times, then handed it back like it might bite her. "If you wake up tomorrow and think, what was I on? Honestly, no hard feelings. I'll survive. Might cry into my cornflakes, but I'll live." He slid the phone away, eyes never leaving hers. "I won't change my mind, Ellie." Her cheeks went furnace hot. "Right. Good night, then." "Good night, Ellie." She turned, took 3 steps, spun back. "Alexander, thank you for best night ever." Then she bolted before he could reply, trainers squeaking on the marble all the way to the revolving doors. Outside on Park Lane, she bent over, hands on knees, gasping. "Ellie Walsh, what just happened?" Her pocket buzzed. She yanked the phone out so fast, she almost dropped it again. "Unknown number. It was the best night of my life, too. Sleep well, Ellie." Alexander X. She clutched the phone to her chest and let out the most undignified squeak Mayfair had ever heard. A passing tourist gave her a funny look. Ellie didn't care. For once, the universe felt like it was on her side. The next morning, 5 a.m., Ellie was on her knees in a corridor on the 12th floor of the Langham Grand, attacking a red wine stain with a scrubbing brush and a grin that refused to leave her face. "Ellie, you're humming again," Maria called, pushing the trolley past and smiling like you've won the Euromillions. "Morning, Maria. Lovely day in it." Her pocket buzzed. Once, twice, 3 times. Ellie dropped the brush, wiped her hands on her tabard, and fished out the phone. The screen was still smeared with flash. The name read Alexander. The phone slipped straight from her wet fingers and plopped into the bucket of dirty water. "No! No!" She plunged her arm in up to the elbow, rescued it, shook it like a maraca. Miraculously, it lit up. "Good morning, Yelly. Fancy a coffee later? I know a quiet spot just round the corner." Alexander. She sank to the wet carpet, clutching the dripping phone to her heart. "He wants coffee. With me. Actual coffee." Maria came back. "Ellie, why are you sitting in a puddle?" "Testing. Carpet absorbency." "Very absorbent." Maria raised an eyebrow and carried on. Ellie stared at the message. Her thumbs hovered. Option 1. Morning coffee sounds lush. Too keen. Option 2. Good morning, Mr. Harrington. That would be acceptable. Too much like she was booking a dentist appointment. She typed. Morning, Alexander. I'd love coffee. What time works for you? Sent. Then immediately regretted the lack of kisses. 10 endless seconds later. 3 p. Later, I'll meet you outside the staff entrance. Axeli let out a tiny scream, leaped up, and smacked her head on the trolley. Oh! Worth it. 4 hours to become human. 3 hours and 40 minutes later, she was locked in the staff loose, practicing greetings at the mirror. Hi, Alexander. Lovely to see you. Grimace. Too much teeth. Hey, yo. Shake of head. Too much like she was greeting the postman. The door rattled. Ellie, you've been in there ages. Sandra, the supervisor. Coming. Just. Repinning my hair. She stared at her reflection. Best white blouse slightly creased from 3 years in a drawer. Jeans she'd ironed twice, and the one pair of trainers that weren't completely knackered. Sandra was waiting outside, arms folded. "Why are you dressed like you're going somewhere nice mid-shift?" "I've got an appointment." Sandra's eyes narrowed. Eleanor Walls. "Is this a date?" "It's coffee." "With a bloke? Maybe." Sandra grinned. "Who is he?" "No one. Well, someone, but not, like, famous or anything." Massive lie. Maria appeared with a bottle of water. "Drink this. You're sweating buckets." Ellie downed half of it. Fine. Totally in control. The clock hit 2:55. She sprinted through the service corridors, nearly appending a linen trolley, burst out the side door, and skidded to a halt. There he was, Alexander Harrington, leaning against a gleaming black Aston Martin in sunglasses, and a pale blue shirt open at the collar, looking like he'd been photoshopped into real life. Ellie's knees forgot how to knee. He removed the sunglasses. "Ellie, hi." One syllable. "Brilliant. You look lovely." She glanced down at her ironed but still creased blouse and the stubborn stain on her trainer. "I look like I got dressed in the dark, but thank you." He opened the passenger door of the Aston. She stared at it like it might eat her. "Coffee," he reminded gently. "Right. Coffee." She took one step and somehow tripped over absolutely nothing. Alexander caught her elbow just in time. "You all right?" She looked up into those ridiculous blue eyes. "Are you sure you want coffee with me? I'm a walk-in health and safety violation." He laughed softly and kept hold of a hand. "I'm absolutely sure." 5 minutes later, they were in a tiny, independent cafe in a mews off Marylebone High Street. Exposed brick, hanging ferns, and a chalkboard full of drinks that sounded like spells. Ellie stared at the board. "Salty oat milk. Honey latte. Is that even legal?" Alexander grinned. "Still counts as coffee." They sat by the window. Ellie immediately started rearranging the sugar bowls. "Nervous?" he asked, chino in hand, clearly enjoying himself. "Me? No. I just like symmetry." She knocked the salt cellar flying. "Bollocks." He laughed properly this time. The barista arrived. "I'll have a normal coffee, please," Ellie said quickly. "Like brown. Hot in a cup." "Americano?" "Yes, thank you. You're a lifesaver." Alexander ordered a flat white. When the drinks came, Ellie attacked the sugar packet like it had personally offended her and showered half the table in granules. "Oh, God, sorry." She tried to scoop it up with her hands, and only made it worse. Alexander calmly wiped the table with a serviette. "I like that. You're exactly you." She froze. "You like that? I'm a human disaster?" "I like that you're real." Ellie's heart did something complicated. "Alexander, you need to get out more. Your bar is clearly on the floor. My bar is exactly where it should be." She hid behind her cup, cheeks on fire. He stirred his coffee slowly. "You asked last night if I travel a lot." "Yeah, constantly. Hotels in London, Edinburgh, Paris, Dubai. Meetings, spreadsheets, handshakes. I chose it, built it. But somewhere along the line it stopped feeling like living." Ellie nodded slowly. "I get that. I work long hours because rent doesn't pay itself. You work long hours because you forgot how to stop. Something like that." She sipped her Americano perfect, by the way. "Ever had a proper relationship in the middle of all that madness?" He paused, eyes on the steam rising from his cup. Alexander paused, just a fraction too long, then said quietly, "A few times. Nothing that ever lasted." Ellie tilted her head. "Why not?" He glanced down at the table, then back at her. "Hard to know if people were interested in me, or in what came with me. The hotels, the money, the name." Ellie frowned. "The name." Alexander brushed it off smoothly. The job. Being the boss. People tend to put on a show. She nodded slowly, not entirely following, but getting the gist. Ah, right. Loads of brown-nosing. Bet half the staff call you sir, even when you're off the clock. He nearly snorted his flat white. Something like that. Ellie laughed. Sorry, I just say things. No filter. Don't apologize. It's refreshing. They sat in easy quiet for a moment, watching the world hurry past the window-black cabs, red buses, tourists with umbrellas. Then he turned to her. And you, Ellie? Ever had anyone special? Her cheeks went scarlet. Me? Date, she gave a small, wistful laugh. Never really had the time. Worked since I was 16. Mom and Dad, well, they weren't around much after I left school. Learned pretty quick that if I didn't look after myself, no one else would. That meant shifts, overtime, 2 buses. Each way, no room for nights out or meeting anyone. Alexander listened without interrupting, eyes steady on hers. So I just let the idea go, she went on, voice softer. Figured romance wasn't on the cards for girls like me. She lifted her gaze to meet his. Now, I'm not so sure. Something warm flickered across his face. Hope. Maybe. When the bill arrived, Alexander reached for his wallet, but Ellie was quicker. No, I'll get mine. She rummaged in her little purse, pulling out a handful of crumpled fivers and coins. Let's see. Coffee was, what, 6 quid? He gently closed his hand over hers. Ellie, I invited you. Please. She stared at the money in her palm, then at him, and felt her eyes sting. It wasn't about the coffee. It was someone wanting to take care of her, just once. She wasn't used to it. He paid, and they stepped out onto the mews. At the pavement she stopped. Thank you, Alexander, truly. For everything. Can we do this again? Her heart did a somersault. You. Want to, very much. She beamed. Then yes. Absolutely yes. He stepped closer. May I walk you home? She opened her mouth to say yes, when a familiar voice bellowed across the street. Aliano. Walsh, coffee with a handsome man and you didn't breathe a word. Doreen. Shopping bags, swinging, charging over like a woman on a mission. Ellie shut her eyes. Kill me now. Too late. Doreen planted herself in front of them, out of breath, pointing at Alexander. And who might this be? Doreen, this is Alexander. Alexander Doreen Mai Nabar and current mentor. He offered his hand politely. Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Doreen. Doreen shook it, eyes narrowing on Ellie. Mrs. Doreen. Manners. I like him already. Where'd you find him, Ellie? I didn't find him anywhere. We just had coffee. Coffee? Doreen repeated, smirking. And people hold hands during coffee now, do they? Ellie glanced down. Alexander still had a light grip on her fingers. She yanked free so fast she nearly toppled. We weren't. Well, we were, but it's complicated. Alexander looked thoroughly entertained. Doreen folded her arms. Right, young lady? You're telling me everything later? Every detail. She turned to Alexander. You seem decent. Polite. Loaded, by the look of it. What exactly are your intentions with my girl? Doreen? Ellie squeaked, mortified. Alexander answered, straight-faced. To get to know her better, and if she have, me take her to dinner again. Doreen nodded approvingly. Good answer. You'll do. She patted Ellie's shoulder. Relax, love. Just looking out for you. Then, to Alexander. Anything happens to her, I'm next door and I've got pepper spray. Noted, he said, smiling. Doreen waddled off, suiting back full debrief tonight. Ellie groaned. I'm so sorry. She's intense. She's brilliant, Alexander said, and she clearly adores you. Ellie blinked up at him. You're not put off? Not even slightly. That's when he asked, Ellie, are you free Saturday night? Think so. Why? There's a charity gala at the hotel fundraiser black tie auction. The usual. I'd love you to come as my guest. She froze. A proper gala. With posh people and everything. Exactly. Alexander, I haven't got anything to wear. Come however you like. I just want you there. Before she could protest, he leant in, brushed a gentle kiss on her forehead, and murmured, I'll text you. Then he walked away, leaving Ellie, touching her forehead in stunned bliss. 3 hours later, she was pacing Doreen's living room in full meltdown. I've nothing to wear, Doreen. Nothing. Doreen sipped her tea calmly. Sit down before you wear a hole in my carpet. Ellie sat, knees bouncing. Doreen took her face in both hands. You are going to that gala. You are going to look stunning, and you are going to knock their socks off. Clear. But I haven't. I have a dress. Ellie stared. You? Do? Doreen disappeared into the bedroom and returned with an elegant emerald satin gown, simple, timeless. My daughter wore it once to a wedding. Decided green wasn't her color. It'll look perfect on you. Ellie touched the fabric reverently. Doreen, I can't possibly. You can, and you will. You deserve this, Ellie Walsh. Tears rolled down Ellie's cheeks. Saturday afternoon, Ellie sat in Doreen's kitchen while her neighbor wrestled her hair with curling tongs. Oh, Doreen, my scalp. Stop fidgeting. Your hair's as stubborn as you are. Ellie peered in the hand mirror and barely recognized herself. The dress fit like it was made for her. Soft curls framed her face. Doreen had even lent pearl drop earrings. I look different. You look beautiful, Doreen corrected. Ellie swallowed the lump in her throat. What if I'm not enough? What if they all see straight through me? Doreen spun the chair round. Listen to me. You are more than enough. Always have been. If anyone there can't see that, it's their loss. When Ellie stepped out of the block, Alexander was waiting beside the Aston, in full black tie bow tie. Perfect. Hair, immaculate. His face, when he saw her, made every second of nerves worth it. Ellie, he seemed lost for words. I know, she said anxiously. Borrowed dress, borrowed earrings. Doreen nearly scalped me. You look breathtaking. She had no reply for that. He opened the door. Ready? No. But let's go anyway. He laughed and slid in beside her. As they glided toward Mayfair, Ellie stared out at the city lights and whispered, Please, don't let me cock this up. Alexander took her hand. You're going to be perfect. She almost believed him. But when they pulled up to the Langham Grand, paparazzi flashes popping, guests in couture spilling from Bentleys and Rolls Royces, the panic surged back. He noticed immediately. Hey, look at me. She did. You're with me. Nothing bad happens tonight. Trust me, she nodded, gripping his hand like a lifeline. Cameras flashed as they stepped out. Ellie clung tight, stepping into a world of glittering excess she never imagined entering in. Had no idea if she could survive. Ellie had never seen so many diamonds in her life. Necklaces, bracelets, earrings enough. To fund the NHS for a month, probably. She touched Doreen's pearl drops, self-consciously. Hope these are insured. Alexander kept her hand in his as they entered the ballroom. Head stern, and docents of them. The weight of every gaze felt like a spotlight. Alexander, she whispered, squeezing tighter. Everyone's staring. Because you look incredible, he murmured. Or because I clearly don't belong. He stopped, turned her to face him. You belong wherever I am. Understand? She swallowed and nodded, but inside the Tao roared. He guided her to their table-white orchids, flickering candles. A silver-haired man in a charcoal suit rose at once. Alexander, good to see you, Reacher. Likewise. They shook hands. Allow me to introduce Ellie Walsh. Ellie offered her hand. Lovely to meet you. Richard shook it, eyes flicking over her appraisingly. Walsh. Any relation to the Walsh Group? No, afraid not. More the cleaning products group. Richard blinked. I beg your pardon. I work here. Housekeeping. Employee of the year, actually. But tonight I'm just a guest. Richard glanced at Alexander, baffled. Alexander smiled warmly. Ellie is exceptional, and I'm lucky she agreed to join me. Ellie's cheeks burned. Waiters glided past with canapes, tiny artistic things. Ellie picked one up. What on earth is this? Alexander stifled a grin. Crostini with chicken liver, PT, and fig. Fig on liver. Someone was feeling brave. He chuckled. Try it. She did, eyes widening. Bloody hell, that's incredible. She nabbed 2 more before the tray vanished. Across the table, a woman in scarlet silk and a diamond choker watched with thinly veiled disdain. She leant to a friend. Who is she? Never seen her before. And that dress off the high street, surely. Ellie heard every word. The canape turned to ash in her mouth. Alexander heard too. His eyes turned icy. The women fell silent. Then he placed Ellie's hand visibly on the table and said, loud enough for the table to hear, Ellie, you look stunning, and I'm thrilled you're here with me. Tears pricked her eyes. Embarrassment, gratitude, everything. The woman in red looked mortified. Ellie stood suddenly. Excuse me, Jasny Dlou. Alexander reached for her. Ellie. I'm fine. 1 minute. She hurried out, locked herself in the marble bathroom, and stared at her reflection. You don't belong here, she whispered. Borrowed dress, fake life. The door opened. In walked the woman in red, touching up lipstick. Silence stretched. Then, you really work here? Housekeeping? Yes. The woman capped her lipstick, met Ellie's eyes in the mirror. And Alexander Harrington brought you as his date. He did, a faint smile. Interesting. He never brings anyone. Turns up alone. Donates a fortune. Leaves. Yet tonight he brought you and defended you publicly. Ellie said nothing. The woman headed for the door, paused. Maybe you don't fit our world, but you clearly fit his. She left. Ellie returned to find Alexander waiting anxiously. You all right? I am now. He cupped her face gently. I don't care what anyone thinks. Only you. You. Why me? She whispered. I'm not like them. That's exactly why. He led her back in. At the table he stopped, addressed everyone clearly. I want you all to meet Ellie Walsh. She's kind, hardworking, utterly genuine, one of the most remarkable people I know. I'm incredibly fortunate she's here with me tonight. Silence. Then someone at the back began clapping. Another joined. Soon the whole room applauded. Ellie stood stunned, tears streaming. Alexander whispered, See, you belong. For the first time that night, she started to believe it. Then a woman swept in tall, blonde, couture gown, perfect broderie and made straight for them. She looked Ellie up and down with icy disdain. Alexander, darling, she purred. We need to talk. Now. The blonde stood inches away, radiating expensive perfume and old money. Alexander released Ellie's hand gently and faced the newcomer, expression coolly polite. Victoria, I wasn't expecting you. Victoria's smile was all teeth, no warmth. Surprise, Victoria purred. sliding her manicured hand onto Alexander's forearm like she owned it. "We need to talk about the merger. It's urgent." Ellie took an automatic step back, suddenly invisible again. Alexander's jaw tightened. "Victoria, it can wait until Monday." "No, Alexander. Eat, really, can't he?" Victoria finally flicked her gaze to Ellie, the way one might notice a smudge on a window. "So, sorry, darling. Business. I'm sure you understand." Ellie understood nothing, but nodded anyway. Alexander looked torn. "Eligo?" she said, forcing brightness into her voice. "Honestly, I'll be right here." He hesitated another heartbeat, then let Victoria steer him away. Ellie watched them disappear through the crowd and felt something inside her crack clean in too. She didn't belong here. She never would. So, sie left. Monday morning, Ellie was back in her navy tabard, pushing the cleaning trolley along the 8th-floor corridor of the Langham Grand as though the weekend had been a fever dream. Maria came sprinting round the corner, clutching a glossy magazine. "Ellie, have you seen this?" Ellie kept polishing a mirror. "Seen what?" Maria shoved the magazine under her nose. The cover of the month issue of British Business Review. Front cover. Alexander Harrington in a charcoal three-piece. That same half-smile. Ellie knew by heart. Headline screaming, "Alexander Harrington, the billionaire rebuilding British luxury, one hotel at a time." Ellie dropped the cloth. "You're joking." "I'm not. He owns the whole bloody chain. London, Edinburgh, Paris, Dubai. 47 properties and counting." Ellie snatched the magazine, hands shaking. There he was, Harvard Business School, net worth in excess of £1.8 billion, youngest hotel tycoon in Europe. Her stomach dropped through the carpet. Maria was still talking. "He's literally the boss of all of us, Ellie." Ellie fled to the locker room, locked herself in the staff loose, and Googled his name with trembling thumbs. The results hit like punches. Red carpet photos, Forbes lists, articles calling him Britain's most eligible bachelor. She whispered to the empty cubicle. "I tried to split a 6-quid coffee with a billionaire." Her phone started ringing. "Alexander." She stared at the screen until it went to voicemail. It rang again. And again. She switched it off. For the rest of the day, she became a ninja. Saw him near the lift duct, behind the trolley. Heard his voice in the corridor, slipped into a vacant suite. Texts came thick and fast. She pretended her battery was dead. Sandra caught her hiding in the linen cupboard. "Ellie Walsh, what on earth has got into you?" "Nothing. Just looking for extra pillowcases." "You've been in here 20 minutes. Ellie sighed. "I need space. Sandra, please." Shift over. She bolted home to her tiny flat in Croydon, locked the door, threw her bag on the sofa, and slid down the wall until she hit the carpet. Then the tears came. Hot, angry, humiliated tears. "Knock, knock, knock, Doreen. Not now. It's not Doreen. Alexander." Ellie froze. "Ellie, please. Open the door." She stayed silent. "I know you're in there. I just want to talk." She yanked the door open, eyes blazing. "Why didn't you tell me?" He looked recti gone, hair messy, worry carved into every line of his face. "Because for the first time in years, someone saw me. Not the name, not the money, just me. You let me think you were just some posh manager. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you the whole truth. That's lying by omission, Alexander." He stepped closer. "I was terrified that if you knew, you'd look at me exactly the way you're looking at me now. You're worth almost £2 billion. I clean you're loose. I can't even afford zone for rent some months. How's this supposed to work? I don't care about any of that. But I do." Her voice cracked. "Everyone will think I'm a gold digger, that I'm not good enough. And they'll be right. You are good enough. You're more than enough." She shook her head, tears spilling. "I don't know if I can do this." The staring, the judging, feeling like an imposter every single day. He cupped her face gently. Then let me prove you belong. Let me show you the only opinion that matters is ours. I need time. He nodded, letting his hands fall. Take all the time you need. He turned it to go, then looked back. But I'm not giving up on you, Ellie Walsh. The door closed softly behind him. Ellie sank to the floor again, heart in pieces. 3 days later, she was still in the same unicorn pajamas, living on cold pizza and self-pity. When the front door burst open, Doreen marched in, wielding a spare key in righteous fury. Eleanor Walls, this flat smells like a kebab shop in despair. Ellie pulled the duvet over her head. Go away. Doreen ripped it off and hurled a glass of cold water straight in her face. Ellie shot upright, gasping. Are you insane? Hope. Shower. Now, you are not the heroine of a tragic K-drama. Ellie dripped on the carpet. Doreen, he's a billionaire, and you're a crackerjack human being. So what? I don't fit in his world. Maybe he needs to fit in yours. 2 hours later, Ellie was back at the Langham in uniform, hands still trembling as she changed. Maria burst in. You're alive. Barely. Mr. Harrington came down here himself yesterday looking for you. Looked like he hadn't slept in days. Ellie's heart lurched. Then, taped to her trolley on the 15th floor, she found a cream envelope with her name in beautiful handwriting. Inside, official Langham Group. Stationery announcing the brand new employee scholarship program. First recipient, Miss Eleanor Walsh. Full funding for any degree, diploma, or training course of her choice. On the back, in Alexander's handwriting. Ellie, you deserve every opportunity in the world. Not because of who you are. Not because of me. She stared at the letter until the words blurred. With shaking fingers, she opened her phone, 47 unread messages, and typed, Can we talk? The reply came instantly. Name the time and place. Sunset. The roof terrace, service stairs. She hit send, wiped her tears, and for the first time in 3 days felt hope flicker back to life. That evening, the London sky burned peach and rose above the rooftops. Ellie pushed open the roof door to find Alexander in faded jeans and a plain white shirt, no suit, no watch, no armor. On a red-checked picnic rug sat Greg's sausage rolls, salt and vinegar crisps, 2 cans of Coke, and a pair of strawberry milkshakes from the McDonald's on Oxford Street. He turned, saw her, and the relief on his face was almost painful. You came. I came. He rubbed his palms on his jeans. I wasn't sure what you liked, so I got a bit of everything from the high street. Sausage roll? Vegan one as well, just in case, Alexander. He stopped rambling. Breathe. He laughed. Shaky. Sorry. Thought you might stand me up. She walked over and sat cross-legged on the rug. He sat opposite, careful distance between them. What changed your mind? He asked quietly. She pulled the scholarship letter from her pocket and held it out. This. He looked at the skyline instead of at her. I realized something. Everyone in my life wants a piece of me money, influence, a photo. You never asked for anything. You tried to pay for your own coffee. It was 6 quid. Best 6 quid anyone ever tried to give me. Silence settled, soft and warm. Alexander picked up a wrapped burger, fumbled nervously, and the whole thing shot out of the paper and landed with a pathetic thud on the concrete. They stared at it, then at each other, and burst out laughing proper, helpless, belly-aching laughter. I can buy half of Mayfair, he wheezed, but I can't open a bloody cheeseburger. Ellie wiped tears of laughter. See, you're clumsy too. I'm contagious. He grinned. You've ruined me for sophistication, liar. Honestly, he said, handing her the surviving burger with exaggerated care. Before you, I never dropped a thing. She took it, smiling. You were also, by your own admission, boring. He looked at her, eyes soft in the sunset. And now, Ellie took a breath, looked at the city, glittering below, then back at him. Now I think maybe we both get to be a little less boring. Together, he reached across the rug, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their fingers laced. Above them the sky blazed gold. And for the first time, Ellie really believed that some fairy tales don't need glass slippers. Sometimes all they need is a borrowed dress, a rooftop picnic, and the courage to try again. They ate in comfortable quiet for a few minutes, the last sliver of sun vanishing behind the London skyline. Then Ellie spoke, voice barely above the traffic far below. "Alexander, I need to say something." He set his sausage roll down at once, giving her every ounce of his attention. "You can tell me anything." She swallowed hard, staring at the rooftop gravel. "I'm terrified that one day you will wake up and realize you could do so much better. Someone polished, someone from your world, someone who knows which bloody fork to use and doesn't trip over thin air. And you'll look at me and wonder what on earth you were thinking." The words tumbled out, raw and fast, years of doubt in every syllable. Alexander let the silence settle, then shifted closer and brushed the tears from her cheeks with his thumbs. "Do you want to know my biggest fear?" She nodded, throat tight. "That you'll never believe how incredible you are." He took her hands. "I've spent my life at galas and boardrooms, surrounded by people who look perfect on paper. I felt nothing. Not a spark. But when you knocked the salt cellar flying in that cafe, when you attacked a chocolate pudding with the fish fork, when you muttered to yourself in the corridor thinking no one was listening, I felt alive for the first time in years." Ellie let out a watery laugh. "You make me laugh properly," he went on, voice soft. "You make me want to be better. You make everything matter more than balance sheets. And yes, you talk to yourself. And yes, you drop things. But those are my favorite parts of you." Her eyes widened. "Favorite?" He flushed crimson. I didn't mean to say it like it esto soon." Ellie cupped his face. "Say it again." He smiled that shy, unguarded smile he only ever gave her. "I love that you talk to yourself. I love that you drop things. I love that you tried to go halves on a 6 quid coffee. I love—" He took a steadying breath. "I love you, Ellie Walsh." The city noise faded to nothing. Ellie looked at the man who owned half the luxury hotels in Europe, sitting cross-legged on a rooftop in jeans, ketchup on his sleeve, telling her he loved her. And suddenly, none of the doubts felt big enough to matter. "I love you too," she whispered. Then she kissed him, tasting salt and vinegar crisps, strawberry milkshake, and pure, ridiculous happiness. The most perfectly imperfect kiss in London. When they broke apart, foreheads still touching, he murmured, "So, shall we try this properly? Our way." "Our way," he agreed. "No more galas unless you fancy them. Host rooftops, food trucks, and whatever makes us happy." Ellie grinned. Deal. Deal. Under the first stars over London, Ellie Walsh and Alexander Harrington started writing their own story messy. Loud, gloriously, ordinary, and entirely theirs. 3 weeks later, 3 weeks of stolen kisses in service corridors, cheeky good morning texts, and Alexander discovering the joy of eating chips on the pavement outside the Croydon flat. Until that Tuesday, Ellie walked into the staff locker room, and the chatter died instantly. 5 pairs of eyes flicked away. Sandra practically sprinted out. Maria sat on the bench, scrolling her phone with a grim face. "Maria? What's happened?" Maria handed over the phone. The staff WhatsApp group was exploding. "Is it true Ellie Walsh is shagging the owner? Always thought she was a bit too nice. Makes sense now. Bet she's loving the private jets, lol. Gold digger alert." Ellie's stomach plummeted. "How?" Victoria Maria muttered. "That blonde from the gala came in yesterday just to say hello to management. Accidentally on purpose. Let it slip you two are together." Ellie felt every stare in the corridor that day, every whisper behind hands. At lunch she sat alone for the first time in years. 2 receptionists at the next table made sure she overheard. "Always knew there was something off about her," one said, crunching a carrot stick. "Turns out she's just very ambitious." Ellie fled to the quiet 5th floor loo, locked herself in a cubicle, and finally let the tears come. The door banged open. Maria Marched, inset on the floor outside the cubicle, back against the door. "Ellie Walsh, you are not hiding in here." "They're right," Ellie choked. "I'll never fit." Maria kicked the door lightly. "Who says you have to? You're the kindest, hardest working person here. If Alexander Harrington sees it, he's not daft, he's lucky. But everyone thinks. Not everyone. I don't. And the Ellie I know can't even open a sugar packet without causing a minor incident. Hardly master manipulator material." Ellie snorted a laugh, despite everything. "Now wash your face," Maria ordered. "Victoria doesn't get to win." Ellie emerged red-eyed but upright and walked straight into chaos in the main lobby. Alexander stood in full suit, face like thunder, talking to Victoria, who wore a saccharine smile. "I simply mentioned you'd found yourself a new girlfriend," Victoria was saying sweetly. "I thought people would be happy for you." "You deliberately spread malicious gossip about a member of my staff," Alexander said, voice arctic. "Effective immediately, you are banned from every Harrington property worldwide." Victoria's smile vanished. "You can't be serious." "I am. Security will escort you out." Victoria's gaze flicked to the gathered crowd, then to Ellie. "You'll regret this." "She's not worth it." Alexander stepped forward, eyes blazing. "She's worth more than you will ever comprehend." Then he turned, walked straight to Ellie, and took her hand in front of the entire lobby. "I want everyone to know," he said, loud and clear. "Ellie is with me because she chose to be, because she's extraordinary. And I'm the luckiest bloke alive." He looked only at her. "I love you, and I don't care who knows it." Then he kissed her right. There, in the marble lobby, in front of gaping staff, guests, and one furious Victoria being marched out by security. When they pulled apart, Ellie was crying again, but smiling so wide it hurt, because in that moment she finally understood what strangers thought didn't matter. What they felt did. 2 weeks later, Alexander stood outside, Elias Croydon Block, clutching a bottle of wine that probably cost more than her annual council tax. Ellie opened the door in an apron that said, "Kiss the Cook a Joke gift from Doreen," and grinned nervously. "Hi." "I brought wine. Is wine to posh for spaghetti hoops on toast?" She took the bottle, squinted at the vintage. "Alexander, this has an actual year on it. Like a specific one." He stepped inside, looked around the tiny living room kitchen combo, battered sofa. Charity shop telly. Fairy lights Doreen had insisted on stringing up last Christmas. "It's small," Ellie said quickly. "I know it's perfect," he sighed softly. "It's you." He meant it. She stirred the pot of proper spagbol, her one decent recipe. "I usually only cook this. Everything else ends in smoke alarms." Story. "Last time I tried roast chicken, the fire brigade turned up. Doreen still brings it up at Christmas." As if summoned, the front door opened. Doreen marched in, clutching absolutely nothing. "Oh, didn't expect to see you here, Mr. Harrington," she lied shamelessly. "Doreen, did you knock?" "Must have forgotten. Just popping in." "For my umbrella." She glanced round theatrically. Not here." "Carry on." Door closed. Alexander bit back laughter. "She does that a lot," Ellie sighed. "I love it," he said. "Someone looking out for you." They sat at the tiny table. Alexander took one bite of spaghetti and actually moaned. "Ellie Walsh, this is the best thing I've ever tasted." "You're just saying that." "I've eaten in Michelin-starred restaurants on 3 continents. This wins." The door opened again. Doreen, this time with a random teaspoon. "Forgot my spoon." Ellie didn't even turn round. "That's mine." "Doreen?" "Is it? Fancy that." "Enjoy your dinner." Alexander was properly laughing now. Loving invasion of privacy. I'm stealing that phrase. They washed up side by side at the little sink, sleeves rolled up, arms bracingly, humming off-key to the radio. Alexander dried a plate and said quietly, "I've never done this before." washed up, any of it. Felt properly at home. Ellie stilled, plate dripping in her hand. I've lived in mansions and penthouses, he went on, and never once felt like I could breathe. Here. He looked around the tiny, cluttered, perfect flat. Here I can. Tears welled in her eyes. I was always embarrassed about this place, she admitted. He drawed his hands, turned her to face him. It's the most beautiful home I've ever been in, because it's yours. It's real. It's us. The door creaked open a third time. Doreen poked her head round, now holding a potted cactus. "For God, my Doreen!" they both shouted, laughing. She grinned, utterly unrepentant. "Just checking the plant needed water. Carry on." Lovebirds. Door shut. Alexander pulled Ellie close, resting his chin on her head. "Marry me," he said suddenly into her hair. She froze. "What?" He pulled back, eyes wide, clearly as shocked as she was that the words had escaped. "I mean, not right now. Or maybe right now? I don't know. I just know I want forever of this. Of you, me, Doreen, bursting in with random objects. Spaghetti on toast, all of it." Ellie laughed through happy tears. "Ask me properly one day, when you're ready." "I'm ready now," he said, utterly serious. She kissed him, instead of answering, slow, certain, tasting of garlic and home. And somewhere in the hallway Doreen fist-bumped the air, because some fairy tales don't need grand gestures. Sometimes all they need is a tiny flat in Croydon, a borrowed emerald dress, a rooftop picnic, and two people brave enough to choose each other exactly as they are. Doreen stood in the doorway, clutching the little potted fern like a guilty schoolgirl. "I forgot my fern," she announced. Ellie and Alexander turned in perfect unison. "Doreen," Ellie laughed. "That fern is mine. I bought it in Aldi last week." Doreen inspected the plant, then the pair of them, and finally looked properly sheepish. "Fine." "Just checking you're both decent." "We noticed," Alexander said, grinning. Doreen folded her arms, giving him the full protective non-stare. "So, intentions still honorable." Ellie buried her face in her hands, but Alexander answered without hesitation. "My intention is to love her exactly as she is, in her world, for the rest of my life." Doreen studied him for a long second, then her face broke into a wide, approving smile. "Good answer, lad. You'll do." She finally left this time for real, closing the door with exaggerated care. Later that night, after Ellie dozed off on the sofa under an old crochet blanket, Alexander slipped out onto the tiny balcony and rang a number he hadn't dialed in months. "Mom, Alexander, darling, it's nearly midnight. Everything's more than all right, actually." He glanced through the window at Ellie sleeping peacefully, fairy lights twinkling round her like a halo. "I've met someone. A soft intake of breath. Sommeone spécial. The most special. Her name's Ellie. She's one of the housekeepers at the Langham. And Mum, she's incredible. Tell me. She talks to herself, drops everything, lives in a tiny flat in Croydon. And tonight," he laughed quietly, "tonight I washed up for the first time in my life." "You did what?" "I know, ridiculous. But it felt perfect. She makes me feel normal, Mom. Not the CEO, not the Harrington name, just Alexander." Elena was quiet a moment. "She sounds wonderful." "She is. And I think I'm properly in love. Then I need to meet her. Soon. Promise." When he stepped back inside, Ellie was stirring, rubbing her eyes. "Who is that?" "My mum." Ellie shot upright. "You told your mom about me?" "Told her I washed dishes. She's very impressed." Ellie flopped back, laughing. "You're mad." "Completely. And you love me for it." "I do," she whispered, snuggling into his side. And somewhere next door, Doreen pressed a glass to the wall and smiled. 2 weeks later, Alexander's phone buzzed mid-board meeting. "Mum, I'm in the Langham lobby. Bring Ellie. Dinner. Tonight. No excuses. 20. He rang Ellie immediately. "Ellie, fancy coming to the hotel after your shift?" "Why? Has something happened?" "My mother's here. She wants to meet you." "Like now?" Silence. Then a small squeak. "Now, Alexander." "I'm in meet." "I smell of Sif. She won't care. I care." He smiled despite the nerves. 20 minutes. "I'm coming to get you." Ellie hung up and stood frozen in the 12th floor corridor, mop in hand like a knight's lance. Maria rounded the corner and stopped dead. "Ellie, you look like death." "What's wrong?" Alexander's mother is downstairs. Wants to meet right now." Maria dropped her duster. Now. Locker room pandemonium followed. Uniform flung off. Jeans and a plain white tee yanked on. Maria attacking Ellie's hair with a brush like it had personally offended her. "Oh, Maria. Beauty is pain, babe." Sandra appeared, took one look, and sprinted aware returning with a pair of barely worn ballet flats from Lost and Found. "Better than your work trainers." Lipstick applied in 30 seconds flat. Ellie stared at the mirror. Jeans, white tee, messy but better bun, one slick of berry kiss. She looked exactly like herself. "I can do this," she whispered. "You absolutely can." Maria and Sandra chorused. Ellie walked down the service stairs on wobbly legs. Near the lobby, she stopped, pressed against the wall. "Breathe, Ellie. You've scrubbed every inch of this place. You can meet one posh mum, because you love him." A voice finished. Alexander stood there in his perfect suit, looking more nervous than she'd ever seen him. "You look beautiful. I'm in a t-shirt, still beautiful." He took her trembling hands. "I'm terrified too. This matters. You matter." Ellie laughed weightily. "If she hates me, I'm blaming you." "She won't. She'll love you. Everyone does." They walked into the lobby hand in hand. There she was, Eleanor Harrington. Elegant silver bob, simple navy dress that probably cost more than Ellie's car. Posture like a queen. Ellie's heart sank. "I'm in jeans," but Eleanor's face lit up the moment she saw them. She crossed the marble floor and, ignoring Ellie's outstretched hand, pulled her into the warmest hug. "So you're the girl who's got my son washing dishes." Ellie laughed in surprise. "Guilty." Eleanor stepped back, eyes twinkling. "He rang me at midnight just to brag he'd done the washing up." "I knew then you must be extraordinary." Alexander groaned. "Mum." Eleanor ignored him, taking both Ellie's hands. "Thank you for giving him back his laugh, for reminding him life is more than balance sheets." Ellie's eyes filled. "I didn't do anything special." "Yes, you did," Eleanor said firmly. "You gave him you, and that's everything." She produced a silk handkerchief and dabbed Ellie's cheeks. "And don't worry about the jeans, darling. You look perfect. Real. Exactly what he needs," Ellie whispered. "Call me Ellie, please, not Miss Walsh. Only if you call me Eleanor. We've got years ahead of us." The next 3 months were a whirlwind of Eleanor turning up at the Croydon flat with John Lewis bags. Nonsense. Darling, humor me. Dragging Ellie Chapin and declaring a simple emerald dress in Selfridge's the one because it made Ellie's eyes shine like the Irish Sea. Until one evening Ellie's phone buzzed while she was polishing a corridor mirror. Rooftop. Sunset. Surprise. Where? Whatever you like. AX, she pushed open the roof door to find fairy lights strung everywhere, candles flickering, the same red-checked blanket. To McDonald's strawberry milkshakes sweating gently. Alexander stood in jeans, white shirt, hands literally shaking. "What's all this?" "Us full circle." They sat. He took her hands. "Before you, I had everything the world says matters, and I was lonely as hell. You taught me what actually does matter. He dropped to one knee. Ellie's hands flew to her mouth. He opened a small, simple white gold band with a single diamond that caught every light. Eleanor Walsh, you changed my entire life by sitting in the wrong chair. Will you marry me knowing I'll probably never learn which fork is which, and Doreen will definitely burst in with random plans for the rest of our days? Ellie laughed through tears. Yes. 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring on, stood, and kissed her as the London sky exploded into pink and gold. 6 months later, a quiet garden in Kent, wildflowers everywhere, fairy lights in the trees. Ellie in the simplest, most beautiful white dress. Nothing borrowed this time, just hers. Doreen, as maid of honor, sobbing into a tissue. Maria throwing confetti like an Olympic sport. Eleanor in the front row, glowing with pride. And Alexander looking at Ellie like she was the only person in the universe. When the vicar said, "You may kiss the bride," Alexander whispered against her lips, "Thank you for sitting in the wrong chair." Ellie smiled, tears sparkling. "Thank you for letting me stay." And under an English summer sky, with Doreen whooping loud enough to scare the birds, Ellie Walsh married the love of her life. Proof that sometimes the very best love stories start with a mistake, a mop, and the courage to believe you're worth the adventure. And if you were Ellie and suddenly discovered the man you fancied was secretly a billionaire, would you leg it in terror or dive straight in? Drop your answer in the comments. We read every single one. And on a scale of 0 to 10, how much did this story melt your heart? Smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss the next one. See you soon. Loves.